Hello again. I will warn right up front that I'm going to be talking a little bit about studies into reading behavior. So if you're just interested in the reading vlog portion, I will put a timestamp flag up on the screen so that you know where to skip to. But otherwise, I thought it would be good to preface this with some context. So, personal context to start out with, I have been finding lately that my reading habits have changed a lot from what they used to be. And I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about that and to explore what that means in terms of how I pick books and whether I look at sort of the author as being a reason to pick up a book or whether I look at the substance of a book or the premise of the book. There's certainly been a lot of discussion around how TikTok and, Bookstagram and BookTube and everything that is social media that intersects with bookish communities or influencers, how that then influences how people consume books and how that affects how they read and their book purchasing and, what books they pick up, what books are popular and, how that interacts with the publishing world as well. Like there's a lot of very evident influence that social media has on how we look at reading. I think it's interesting because when I was a child and a teenager, probably through till maybe I was in university, so not to age myself, but about 2014, I would pick up books based on their premise, what section of the library they were in. And if I was picking based on the author, it would only ever be because there was a series that I was interested in that I had already picked up. So I know that Sherilyn Kenyon was a big one for me. I really liked her books. Even though they're in a series, I could pick up anything in the series because it wasn't that, it's interconnected, but they're sort of standalone romances in a way. I think the first author for me who was actually someone that I would read across series and I really just picked because I loved them and the worlds that they created was Tamora Pierce. And yeah, I haven't really had that as much since until we get to sort of nowadays. And a lot of the way that books are recommended through social media is on the basis of they've produced this really, really popular book and maybe that book is a series, so you keep picking it up each time. Or it's a really, really popular book, and so anything that author then puts out from that point on gets a lot of hype, a lot of praise up front. But I feel like I'm a bit in the minority in that I don't super look at books from authors, even if I've enjoyed the book. If it's not part of a series, I won't automatically go and search out other books by that author. And that's a bit of what I'm experimenting with today. But first, I want to look at a reading survey that came out from Monash University. So this is the Understanding Australian Readers Behavioural Insights into Recreational Reading report that came out just this year. I'm sorry for people that are watching this outside of Australia, but this is the sort of, this is the data that's relevant to me. And God, I love the information that's in this report. There's all these little bits and pieces about, leisure activities in general, reading frequency, reasons for reading. And I thought it would be really interesting maybe to come back to this potentially at the end of the year and see how my stats across the year compare to the national average or what's expected according to this report. So let me know if you'd be interested in that as well, because maybe it's just me and my love of numbers. They have information as well about preferred type of book, preferred format of book, things like that, genres. And this is, sort of the data I'm talking about, where it'd be interesting to kind of compare what I read compared to what's in this report. But the bit that is relevant for today is facilitators for finding books. So this is specifically finding recreational books that you want to read, and it's looking at it based on whether you're an avid, engaged, ambivalent, or aspirational reader. Doing a quick scan for avid readers, in terms of the percentage is finding an author or series I like and reading more of their books. That is specifically for avid readers. The highest percentage have said that that is a facilitator for finding books for them. I think the second most popular is visiting or browsing a library. And then it's recommendations from family, friends, or booksellers/librarians. When we compare that to what they call the engaged readers, it is the same. Finding an author or series is the highest. Oh no, sorry, word of mouth is the highest. And then the second is finding an author or series. For ambivalent readers, they are less informed by finding an author. And their highest one is word of mouth. For, what was the other one? Aspirational readers. The highest one for them is recommendations from family, friends, or booksellers, librarians. The second highest one appears to be visiting or browsing physical or online bookstores. So that's a really interesting kind of breakdown of that. I would have thought that of all of these, I would count as an avid reader, but I might need to go back and look at the actual definition. But it's interesting to see that for them, the number one thing is finding an author that they like and then reading more. I know that something else that's come out through the research is that avid readers are much more able, basically, to find things that they enjoy, probably because they already have a blueprint that they know they like certain genres and they know they like certain authors. So they're likely to come across more hits than they are misses because they are more informed going into the book deciding process. Okay, so avid readers read daily and frequently start new books. Engaged readers stand out for their regular reading habits ranging from daily to several times a week and a desire to read even more, indicating a slight dissatisfaction with their current reading time. So maybe I would actually fall more under engaged reader because I don't necessarily read every single day. But yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting way to inform this discussion. And what I want to do today is look at some of the authors who I have read only one book of theirs in the past. I have rated it 5 stars, but I have not read any of their other work. It seems like a wild concept a little bit, I think, for some people. But yeah, like I said, particularly in the past, it wasn't really part of my process to read books based on the author. It was very much, I like the premise of this story. I want to read it on the basis of that. I feel like there's a way to do this that's setting me up to fail, which is picking books from these authors that I wouldn't necessarily like anyway. So I have still tried to pick ones that I think are interesting. I just hope that I will still enjoy them. We'll see. But I'll read a book. I will say whether or not I enjoyed them, what my rating is, and then sort of how it compares from my memory of the other book and whether it is better or worse, or what it is missing that the other one had, or what it has over the previous book that I've read. Yeah, so I think it'll be kind of an interesting exploration. I want to see if I can find any authors that I would want to read more of their sort of back catalogue, I guess. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think there is a possibility that I am, I'm like really excited about it. So I think there is the possibility that I am going to be a little bit disappointed, but I'm hoping I won't be. I'm hoping that I can find some really good books in this mix. That is all the prefacing I need to do. The first one I will be reading is Hide by Kiersten White. It is not going to come across super well because it is a library book, so it has that shiny, shiny cover. So for anyone who has seen my vampire video, the reading new vampire books video, that is how I discovered Kiersten White. I really liked Lucy Undying. I thought it was a very satisfying book. It had some themes that I really enjoyed. It had vampires, which is great. It was queer, it was feminist. There were a lot of things in it that I said, I think this is designed for me specifically. So I very much read that on the basis of, one, I wanted to read recent vampire novels, and two, I think that this will appeal to me, and it did. So for this one, I really just picked one that seemed like it might be Still sort of in my genre, I had a little bit of a scan of Kiersten White's other books, and I don't know that I would necessarily read all of them just based on the scan. There are also some, like, I think she's got some middle school fiction as well in there. Oh, and she has like, I think she has like Buffy stories as well, like from the Buffy universe, Buffy extended universe fanfic or whatever it counts as. So maybe there's a possibility I'll read that at one point, but I think that's one of those things where Buffy is a bit too precious to me to potentially introduce that and then get annoyed at it, especially for the sake of this video where I'm really just trying to compare it to the other work by the author, not a whole other media product that I adore. So I wanted to read this one instead. Some of the ways that Google describes people are very funny. Kiersten White is an American author of fiction for children, young adults, and adults. Her first book, Paranormalcy, was published in 2009 by HarperCollins. She is aged 41 to 42 and she lives in Utah. Best novel by a new author, Speculative Youth Fiction Award, and a YALSA Teen Top 10 Award. She is bisexual is the only thing it says underneath. After her website, it says she is bisexual. She's a writer covering a variety of genres: fantasy, historical fiction, paranormal horror. I like all those things. The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein won the 2018 Bram Stoker Award for the young adult category. She has 6 standalone novels, 2 chapbooks, which I don't know what those are. God, it just keeps going. There are a few different series. And then, yeah, there's 2 in the Slayer Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe, which came out in 2019 and 2020. She's also done a Star Wars contribution, so she's a big nerd is what we're getting. I feel like that's all the context we need to have. I will now read the back of the book, and then I will come back when I have my thoughts on the book. I've tried to say this several times, but there's 2 words that I'm tripping over. Try and guess what they are. The challenge: spend a week hiding in an abandoned amusement park and don't get caught. The prize: enough money to change everything. Even though everyone is desperate to win, to seize their dream future or escape their haunting past, Mac feels sure that she can beat her competitors. All she has to do is hide, and she's an expert at that. It's the reason she's alive and her family isn't. But as the people around her begin disappearing one by one, Mac realizes this competition is more sinister than even she imagined, and that together might be the only way to survive. The library has marked this as a thriller. I will see what the internet says. Sorry for saying that I trust the internet more than the library. Okay. Hide is a horror thriller. And it looks like it's just an adult. Oh no, I saw someone being like, it's absolutely awful. Okay, I don't care. I'm keeping that out of my mind. Sometimes I hate it when Reddit is the first thing that pops up when you look for a book. Horror thriller, it's not really something that I read a lot of. I watch a lot of horror. I even watch some amount of thriller, but it's not something that I've read a ton. So I think I'll probably have fun with this anyway. I like the premise. An amusement park is a scary setting. I think that Us is a good example of that, the movie Us by Jordan Peele. So I am excited for this, and I will, get back when I have read this book. So I am coming to you back from the future because inexplicably I managed to record my first thoughts about Hyde into my camera mic, which just loved to make all these shuddery adjusting sounds, as it probably would be doing right now if I let it. But I'm pretty sure I'm recording out of the microphone now, so let's give it another go. What I have is just the script of what I've already said, so I will be reading that. And you can get from that what my initial impressions were of the book before I do kind of the final wrap up, and whether I think that, I already know because I'm from the future, but whether I think that this is a good book and whether I think I will read more from the author. So initially what happened is I read a couple of pages and then I kind of left it. It wasn't really kicking in for me at all. I wasn't really feeling the vibes at all. But then I got stuck into it, and then I think it went really quickly from there. I will be going through kind of a more thorough recap in this section in the next video, and so I'll flag spoilers in the timestamps because I think that's good. But I also want to talk about the spoilers because otherwise I'm just going to be making very general statements, and I think it's fun, especially if this is not really your genre. I think it's fun to learn about something that you are never going to read. So what happens in the book is we're following a group of 14 people who are ostensibly on a reality TV show to do kind of a hide and seek competition in an amusement park. I think some of them believe they're on a reality TV show. Other people think it's just like this kind of setup, but they're all very pulled in by the idea of the money. They need the money, or they need like the connections to the reality show crew because they're like influencers or whoever. So we have a group of 14 people, which is a huge amount of people to start a story with. They are in this competition. We also have this one woman who is kind of when they arrive at the amusement park, she's kind of guiding them there. She tells them the rules of the competition are you hide during the day. Once the kind of alarm sounds and you've finished, you go back to the bunker where everyone stays. You're going to be safe at nighttime. So she kind of sets up their rules and she leaves, and the next day they start the competition. We are following one person called Mac, but we're also dipping into the heads of different contestants. And we'll have kind of the backstories for each of them, learning how they ended up in a place to accept this kind of wild job offer. So it's a lot of money, particularly for Mac, because she has no place to live. She doesn't have anything. She is an orphan. Her whole family is dead. So a very, very sad backstory for Mac. So what happens is that during the day, they do the hide and seek thing in this kind of abandoned amusement park. Then they return at night. What we discover as we go along is this group of 14 are actually the result of 7 original families, and they have all been brought here as descendants of this family to sacrifice, to ensure that these generations continue to have prosperity for as long as this kind of ritual exists. So this is an amusement park which has been abandoned for a long time, and they've been doing this, I think it's every 7 years or something, for many, many decades. And they bring in basically their cast-offs from different families, children that have been abandoned by these original descendants, to give over to this beast. So what happens is during the day, as everyone hides, they are slowly getting picked off by this beast who was originally summoned by these families to... Such a silly premise. But originally summoned by these families to get prosperity and wealth and to survive. Because I think at the time that they did this, it was post-war. So they actually did have more of a need, food and survival. But obviously, as they continue to go down the generations, they are just greedier and greedier about what they want. And they have come to believe that these people, it is their right to have this wealth, and these people just have to be sacrificed because of it. Very clear message in the story. But yeah, what we kind of do is we follow them each night. I think it's like over a week. Slowly they're kind of piecing together the pieces of like, these people didn't just leave, they were killed. And as I said, we're dropping into the heads of everyone. Originally very confronting because there were even times where I think we dipped into the head of no one. So I don't know whose point of view that was. It was just like an omniscient sort of point of view. But I do think ultimately, like, without it, I don't know how I would have gotten a hand on all of the different characters. And it was interesting a little bit. I just think that it wasn't particularly well done in terms of how it was written. I think in general, it did make the book better to be in the different people's heads. Like, it's an interesting premise, the idea of this monster hunting them down with a game of hide and seek, and also that it has been, summoned in this way. There is a nice tension in the book. There are good characters. I've just got in my notes here, I think this is also where I kind of like Kiersten White's storytelling, at least in the 2 that I've read so far, is that they are kind of character-based. And for me, I'm very much focused on character. Even when I talk about why it didn't grab me at the start, it's like because it was hard to get into the character's mind and the different shifting perspectives. But on the whole, I think, I rooted for the main character. I'm a sucker for characters and I want them to succeed if they're good people. It's a silly idea for a book, but it's one that I think is kind of fun. And it's one that I think would be amazing as like a TV show or something like that, just because it would be a lot easier to understand like the different characters. And an amusement park is just an amazing setting for something like this. For horror, I think it's really good. So, yes. Now on to future past Ellen. I have finished Hyde, and embarrassingly, I had about 3 pages left of the book. A very small part of the book left when I did my last check-in, so haven't really changed much. I'm not sure that I particularly liked the ending. So I think I talked a bit about like the premise of the book, and it's, it's a competition, but it was brought about by these families who summoned this demon in the hopes that if they fed this demon, they would have continued prosperity for themselves and their future generations. Except for, of course, these distant, like, offshoot relatives that are scattered around the place that they are using basically for fodder every 7 years. So the way that the book kind of resolves is that the 3 remaining survivors, the protagonist, her kind of partner, I guess, and then another young man who's I'm glad that he survived, a former cult member who escaped, and at one point they kind of try and get the game to end up so that this guy Legrand is the last survivor, so that he's able to go and save his sister from his father, the cult leader, and that ties in well because obviously, like, part of this generational process of making sure that all of these different families have a bunch of offspring. In that process, one of them, it becomes a cult leader and so has numerous offspring that he can offer up as sacrifices for this wealth demon thing that exists in the amusement park. But the way it kind of ends up is it's the 3 of them. They confront the lady who is running it, one of the families who's running this system game, whatever you call it. They basically decide that they're going to free this monster. It kind of looks like it's set up like they're going to blow it up, but instead they just sort of let it be free, presumably amongst this town, which has all of the kind of rich descendants who have profited from this monster are kind of scattered in this town. And so the idea, I guess, is that the monster will sate itself with all of these people. But then I'm like, does it just keep going? Like, does it just keep killing? It only kills the people who are blood related to the original summoners. So I suppose after a period of time, if it can't find anyone, but it's like, it's also, presumably there are people who are involved in this or not involved in this. Presumably there are people who are part of these families that are innocent. I guess it doesn't matter. It's just one of those things where it's like, you're not supposed to look too much into it. It's a metaphor. It's fine. So yes, that was the book Hyde. I think there were some real emotional moments that I liked in this, but overall I think it was just kind of fun. I struggled to get into it initially, but after that initial hump, I did really enjoy it. I think I'd give it a 4 stars, maybe a low 4 stars, because there were parts of the writing that I didn't really like, but I had fun with it. And really, the benchmark for my rating is about me, my personal enjoyment and rating. I understand the idea of not wanting to rate something higher because it's not as good of a book, but I kind of don't, because art is subjective. So yeah, so if we're comparing this one to Lucy Undying though, I gave Lucy Undying a 5 stars. I'm not sure how much that will hold up over time, but at the point of my reading it, I gave it 5 stars. Where there are similarities between the two, Lucy Undying and this one, they're both very character driven and somewhat of a breezy pace. They have fun ideas. Both of them are queer. This one had like a little bit of an insta-love at the start, which I didn't really enjoy. Sort of very, very early on when the main character was introduced to Ava 2, Ava 1. There's 2 Avas, and they're kind of called Ava 1 and Ava 2, but when she was introduced to the love interest Ava, she basically is like, oh, I immediately trust her. And it's like, why? You're not supposed to trust anyone. Your whole life is built around not trusting people. So both stories also have a kind of sad backstory to do with the family. So Lucy Undying I talked about in the vampire video that I did. In this one, it is that the protagonist Mac has her father killed all of her family except for her, and she managed to escape it by successfully hiding in a cupboard. And in the process, she doesn't leave space for her sister, who ends up getting killed. And so part of her arc in this story is saving other people and also realizing that just because she made that action, that wasn't actually her killing her sister. It was still her father. It was still another entity was doing it. Her actions did not, she did not actually kill someone with her actions. And so this, yeah, obviously the setup is she's good at hiding because she's had to do that in her backstory, but it also has a little bit more of a layer to it in terms of her emotional growth and learning to trust other people and things like that. It has quite a low rating. I will check. I'm pretty sure both of them on Goodreads have like a 3 point something. So Hyde has a 3.32 out of 40,000 ratings on Goodreads. Am I blind? Where is it? And Lucy Undying has a 3.72 out of 4,000 ratings. But yeah, I mean, looking at this, there are a lot of her books that I wouldn't go and read. Some of them are middle school fiction, some of them I'm not sure. But I think it's more that in future I'll be checking out books that she releases just to see if I do like them. And the other one that I know that I want to read is Mr. Magic, and that has an average rating of 3.57 stars out of 24,000 ratings. Yeah, I mean, I think we can call that pretty much a success. I wasn't massively in love with this book, but I had like lots of enjoyment. I wasn't expecting high literary merit. I was expecting to feel things, and I did feel things. And I like that. Originally, I was going to do this as a real long video covering 3 different authors, and then I started the second book and discovered that it's really not my genre, and it kind of, I feel like one way or other it might defeat the purpose of this experiment, because I'm looking to investigate whether authors are for me, and if they predominantly do genres that I don't read, then they're not going to be for me. But at the same time, there are other books that I could have picked by this author that I think are more fitting for what I enjoy. So for the sake of that, I think I'm going to kind of segment these out and release them one at a time, and do a different author obviously each time, with a bit of a roundup of what I enjoy about the author and whether or not I'd read more of their content. But yeah, it was interesting. I kind of started reading another book, an author that I loved their first book, or what I thought was their first book. It was actually like their first book in the genre. Instead, I found that the style of book and the genre was not for me, and so I had to put a close on that. But yes, so that's a long way of saying that I'm going to continue this series as a series of videos, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. I found this to be already kind of pretty fun. Like, it's an interesting self-experiment. I imagine I'm going to find a lot of books that I like through this process. So hopefully you'll join me for the next one. And yeah, thank you. See ya.